You want me to share? Okay.
I had put my thing on. Good with everybody?
Yeah. Hey, can you all see my screen?
It hasn't, it's still black. Oh, there it is now.
So you can all see my screen now?
Just to remind everybody who's signing in late, this session is being recorded.
Okay. So everybody can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So basically what this chart resembles is this is basically taking a model which has been applied against a holdout sample or validation sample. That validation sample has been sorted into, in this case, 10 deciles from decile. Let me just see if I can, there we go. That's a little bit better. So this validation sample has been sorted from into 10 deciles. And basically the validation sample has been scored with the model, which you would have developed from the development sample. So you would have taken the algorithm or equation, whatever technique you've used, whether it's deep learning, decision trees, regression, you would have taken that algorithm and applied it to a holdout group. What you're seeing here is the actual holdout group, which has been sorted into 10 deciles. Here from top, so these are the ones, in this case, this is a response model. So I'm predicting, I'm actually, this decile 1 represents those names that I predict or that the model predicts to be the highest. Meanwhile, decile 10 represents those names that the model identifies to be the weakest or to be least likely to respond. So here we have names that are least likely to respond and names that are most likely to respond. So you have a nice rank ordering, or you could actually plot this. So you see sometimes in EM, you'll see what's called a Lorenz curve, which is this kind of a line going from top to bottom. So what we're trying to do as modelers, particularly in the marketing world and even in credit risk, my report card is always about trying to really improve the slope of that curve. Really want to improve the slope of that curve. So when I hear talk techniques about deep learning and all the other different modeling techniques that are being applied and looking at the difference between the predicted error and the or at least looking at the error rate, which is different between the predicted and the observed, those are that's one measure. My measure, and the one that the business is going to be interested in, is how well are you really rank ordering my customers or my prospects, and that's what we've always shown. So that's sort of a classic way to visualize gains charts or decile charts. Another way for many of you that are reading about data science and data mining, and the other way that they'll look at it is they'll actually take a model, same model, plot it into 10 deciles, decile 1, 2, all the way to decile 10. So again, this represents the decile that I predict to be most. Okay, your network is causing poor. Try switching to a better network or moving closer to a Wi-Fi. Okay, can you all hear me?
It's working fine, Richard, here.
Okay, good. I don't want to go in and out. I've set everything up here. So what I have here is, again, I have deciles, decile 1, 2, all the way to decile 10. Decile 1 represents those names that I predict to be most likely to respond. Here are the ones that I predict least likely to respond. What's being plotted is the Cume percent of purchases. So what this y-axis represents, you could call it responders. What is the total percentage of responders that the model's identifying? So if I have a crappy model or a random model, basically what the model's doing at 10%, I'm capturing 10% of the responders. At 20%, I'm capturing 20. It's not quite, but I'm capturing 20% of the responders. At 30%, I'm capturing 30% of the responders. So what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to get a parabola where I can say that here at 20% of of the names. So these are my top 20%. I'm actually capturing 30% of all the responders in that validation sample. The reason why data scientists like to look at this is you can actually calculate the area underneath this curve, which is called a KS statistic. It's a mathematical statistic, and it is a measure of performance. So you'll see a lot of textbooks that measure or evaluate models in this way. Hard to really get a cutoff point looking at the data, or at least looking at the data in this fashion. So the next thing I want to show you,
Richard.
Yeah.
Because Michael, can you tell Richard how you were trying to do cutoffs?
Yeah, so we had the predicted value, and we tried to take it where the predicted value was greater than the cost of contacting them.
Yeah, but the predicted value is, let me just think. That's based on the model, right? It's not, I mean, you're predicted, you have to remember there's error in there. So it's not really accounting for the fact that like in theory, if you had a perfect model, that's what you would do.
Right.
But you don't. You have error. You have error in there. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to determine a cutoff point based on what you actually can see, what you can actually observe. So you're not wrong, Michael, in what you're saying. If you had a perfect model, you would just use the predicted value and subtract the cost, because the cost is real, but the predicted is there's error in there. And so that's where you're not necessarily going to get the optimum cutoff point. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And the reason I wanted Michael to raise it was so that you could discuss how this improves the process.
Yeah, this is a way, and this is the way when I had Boire Filter Group before I sold it. This is the way we did this. We did this like I was going to sleep every night. Like this is what we always conveyed to the businesses. And
we used it all the time at TDE, and we used it all. Yep.
Yeah, Karen, you'd be for at Amex. We use this at Amex. You saw these probably before I even started Amex.
Thanks a lot, Richard.
Well, but you were before me. Not older than me, but you started there before me. I joined in.
Talking about
when I joined. You
Yeah.
joined earlier than I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so this is a way. Again, this is another chart that. Whoops, I don't want to. This is another chart that demonstrates. It's a table. Again, what I've done is I've taken the previous two charts really are visualization, nice graphical charts that are pretty. This is actually getting a table where you can actually see where I perhaps should cut off. So again, I have my deciles, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. I have my validation names, 20,000. This is CUME, but there's 20,000 in each decile. And this is the CUME response rate. So this is looking at, if I'm looking at 20%, this represents the response rate of 40,000 names, or the top 20%. So when I get to 100%, my overall response rate is 1.5 for those 200,000 names, okay? And my left is basically 3.5 over 1.5, which is 233. I'm not going to talk about modeling benefits, so I don't want to, because we don't have a lot of time, so forget that. That's a very different topic. But what I do want to talk about is this column, okay? And I'm going to get more into the tech a little bit later.
The interval ROI column.
Yeah, this interval ROI column is basically taking a look at the observed responders, or your observed donors, what you predict, or what you've actually, wrong word, not what you predicted, but what you've actually identified in that top 10%. And you're multiplying that by the donation amount, by what they've actually given. So you could actually have, you may actually have just the actual donation amount for that decile, which is fine. You take that donation amount, the observed donation amount, and Michael, that's where you subtract the cost. So you take the observed donation amount, you subtract the cost, and divide by the cost. That's all I'm doing, and that's how I get, this is based off, well, I had different assumptions. This was, the cost that we had, was basically, we had the cost per promotion. This is a direct mail campaign that we did years ago. The cost per promotion was $1. I think the revenue that we had per responder was $60. And so we had those assumptions, and we can then calculate what the interval ROI was. So that's what you're doing there. Now I wanted to show you something else, and I think this will work. This is a sensitivity chart, okay? And I can just move Karen. Oops. Everybody see that? Everybody see that? Yes, no? Can everybody see that? Hello?
I can see that, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we've done is we've taken these gains charts and we've actually put them, we've created this complex, or it's not a complex, we've created this Excel sheet. Because basically what I'm doing is when we load the numbers in, and we have all kinds of macros to do that. This is actually a model. We actually have 20 half deciles, so it's 5%. So you'll see here it's going from 1 to 20. So each group or bin represents 5% of the leads. What the model's actually observing. So again, this is again the model is this is what the model predicts. This is observed. This is the observed response rate. And so this is what we're holding constant, because this is what the model is delivering. What we then go in is we then say, okay, well, let's go in and play with some numbers. So we could go in and take a look at the revenue per response rate. So I go in, see if I can change that. Come on here. Okay, so I'm going to change that. Okay. I'm going to change that to 300. And watch the interval ROI. The interval ROI is gonna drop, right? So here that column is now gone from, it's 107. You can see I have a lot more deciles that are negative, right? And if I drop it even some more to 150, you'll see that I only have one. I had the top 5% are profitable. Everything else is unprofitable. Right. So these can be very, very useful. And I mean, again, this has been built for a response campaign, but you can do the same kind of thing for defection or for credit risk. Again, this is what I'm trying to illustrate here is the concept of taking the model and then putting in some business speak around it, or putting some business assumptions around it so that the business people can use it. If I change the marketing cost per effort, so let's say I change that to $3. Whoops, not 300. Let's just take that to $3. Then everything's unprofitable. But now let's say I change it to 250. Make it a little bit higher. So again, what you're doing is you're saying, you're getting a flavor for okay, given what the amount per product is, given my marketing cost, if I have a large marketing cost, what happens to cutoffs? So this again is the way we've used SAS, and the way we've used these types of tools to make cutoff decisions. So I just wanted to give you a flavor for that. What I'd like to do now is actually go in and show you. I want to show you what I did in SAS, base SAS or SAS EG. So hopefully I have that. Can you all see my SAS code here?
Not yet. While Richard's bringing on that, does anyone have any other comments about other ways that you might make your cutoff decisions? If you have any secrets to share.
I'm just sorry. I'm just going to try and maybe it's not.
Yeah. Anyone have any secrets to share about making cutoff decisions? Does anyone want to acknowledge that they're keeping a secret?
Oh, I'm sure that's what that is.
Yeah. Oh, that your AO said that. He's keeping a secret.
Okay, can you guys?
Not yet.
How's that?
Not yet. Oh, not yet.
It should be SAS code. Like you'll see it's programming code.
Oh,
There's
we still see your old screen. Did you change the screen on your sharing?
Yeah, I got to do that.
You have to
Stop
pick
and
a
then
different
start
window.
again.
Pick
What's
a
that?
different window.
Okay.
Pick a different window.
All right. Let me just try and.
How many windows do you have open?
I have a lot here, but.
I have like 15.
Okay. Let me just see here.
Richard,
Yeah.
I think you have to close. Yeah, so close.
Yeah, I know. I'm
and
just doing
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think you're right. That's exactly what I'm doing here.
Oh, thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Then I should be able to see it.
There you go.
Can you see
SAS
it?
code.
Yeah, I think I have to get out and get back in, you know. So, okay, can you all see this? Can you all see this is base SAS code? Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm going to run here is this is a model that I built a number of years ago for a client. I'm not going to get into all the variables, but it's a regression model. What I really want to get, what I really want to illustrate here is the concept of creating the gains chart. So this is running a regression routine right up here, which I'm going to run. Okay. I actually created quite quickly. So that's my regression. That's my regression model, my output. Here's my t-values. Here's the coefficients. So this is the actual, and again, I would have gone through a lot of, there would have been a lot of work done in terms of isolating what these variables were. This wasn't done in one shot, so there's a lot of pre-work that was done. But this is the actual final model, final regression model or logistic regression model for this response model. And this is the t-values, these are the parameter estimates, and et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do now is take this model. Remember we talked about, you've all read and you've all heard about development samples and holdout samples. I take the output of this model, this scoring algorithm, I now apply it to you'll see VAL-AS, right? VAL-AS represents the validation sample. DEV-AS represents a development sample. I know it sounds like a funny name, but DEV-AS is the development sample for this model, and VAL-AS is the validation sample for this model. So I'm going to actually run the algorithm and generate the gains chart. I don't want to go through the code. The only thing I do want to show you is that what I want to alert your eyes to is here. Is this morning, I actually created an ROI number, which actually takes a look at, you'll see the amount that I'm predicting in that interval minus the cost divided by the cost. So you're going to see an ROI number in there when we run the algorithm. Okay. And so you can see here, this is my gains chart. This is the actual score. So this is the predicted score. So Michael, when you were talking about the predicted, this is the predicted. This is the actual minimum predicted score in this top decile. This is the observed. This is the key one that we look at. This is the one that we use to calculate the donation amount, or to calculate the observed donation amount. In this case, I've made an assumption that the donation amount is constant for all responders. Okay, that's not going to be the case in your sample. It will vary, but you're looking at what's the observed donation amount, and then you'll notice here I calculate. I have my ROI. In this case, I have 102%, 78%, 52%, and you can see here that my cutoff, based off this particular case, the decile or gain chart is telling me I don't want to go below 60%. So what I'm trying to illustrate here, guys, is that if you can illustrate or demonstrate something like this that actually says this is where we maximize or optimize results, well, that's going to have, in my opinion, that's going to have a lot of meaning to the business people. Yeah, they're going to be interested in model performance, and there may be a data scientist there that's trying to look at the K-stat or the KS statistic and seeing how close you are between the predicted, how close you are between, what your error is between the observed, between the observed performance and the predicted performance. And I'm not demeaning those measures. They're all very good measures in terms of evaluating the model performance. But this is about the use. This is really about the use of the model. Okay.
And Richard and I have a lot of conversations about this. Is when you present something like this, you have to make sure, just like we were talking about yesterday, I think it was Alan, that we're speaking in, or Danusha too, that we're speaking in the language of the judges or the quote business.
Yeah.
Because half of the judges are going to be business peoples working in the nonprofit sector, and the other half are the stats guys that Richard's talking about, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have to watch your languages, because Richard, you're not talking very businessy, very technical, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to understand. You have to understand your audience and who you're, and sometimes you have to be able to talk to both.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked a long time in this field. I've had the very great fortune of working in this field for a long time. So I've worked with a lot of great people like Karen and a lot of other people in the business where I've been trained to try and talk, you know, bring it to life. Yeah. I guess that's the best word. Bring it to life within the business, right? But you need to you need to also have the science. Like you can't, you know, you need to understand. Okay, well, this is the science part of it as well. So you know, you're showing the model, you're showing the t-values. You know, you have that in your back pocket. You don't necessarily need to show that. What you want to show is you're showing the strong variables, but you show charts, as you know, as Alan and others have referred to in the past. You know, you show those EDA charts for for the model that we had. You know, if you take a look at the top variable, you know, top variable here in this model was tenure. So I know that because I built this model. So you would take tenure, you plot it against response. And you say, oh, by the way, tenure, you know, our top 4 variables are tenure, we had LTV, and we had age. Those are our top 3. And you show them that. So you get them inside the model. You get them, you start to explain the model to them. Does that make sense?
And if I can add a little bit to that is absolutely understanding your audience, but sometimes, because there's lots of different hats we have to wear when we're getting into the crux of building the model, applying various steps. Sometimes you're way deep in the woods. So one of the things, or one of the practices to do sometimes, is to just remove yourself a little bit, take a break, and then try and wear that hat where you're looking at everything from a big picture perspective, and how are you going to orchestrate and put your presentation together where it flows like a story, and you try and make it more engaging and interesting for your audience as you're putting your presentation together, and making sure that it flows well and transitions well from one slide to the other. So
yeah, because that's a good point, Sean. Because all I'm showing you here, this element is really at the end where you're trying to show them, okay, we've developed the model, we've shown you the model variables. Now we're going to show you this decile table, which is going to really guide us as to where we should start to make our decisions for the next campaign. That's where you really want to kind of use this, so that it's, in this case, it's telling us, I would, if we were to take a look at this particular initiative, we certainly would not want to promote any names below our top 60%. And so that's an actionable strategy. And along the other lines, you might have, here are my not so good guys. But there may be strategies, other marketing strategies that you could develop for this group. So again, it's all about being creative. But what we've done here is we've isolated people into groups. I think the next thing I want to show you is I just want to show you some stuff I did in EM, just to show you that, because I generated pretty much, the only thing I couldn't generate was ROI, but I generated decile charts and gain charts in EM. So I'm going to try and show you that. I'll get out
And while he's doing that transition, are there any other questions that you guys have? You can post them in the chat box or take the mic. Or any other questions that you want us to discuss today? After Richard finishes his EM demo. Questions?
You all see this? This is my enterprise miner.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm on. Okay, so I basically did this very quickly. I just put two data sets together, so I don't have really a validation, but you could split them. But the concept, what I wanted to illustrate is the fact that you can get the decile or gains chart, because I think somebody emailed us yesterday with I think a Lorentz curve or that AUC curve in terms of model performance, which is good, but I really wanted to mention to that to that individual or group that sent the email yesterday that they should also be incorporating the gains or decile table. So here's a simple model. Again, this is a regression model. This is basically taking what I did in base SAS. So it's really taking what I did in base SAS and I basically put it into EM. And I'm going to run a regression. So I'm going to run my proc reg or logistic regression on it. We just sit, have a cup of coffee. Won't take long.
Data.
Go and get a donut. It's not all this data, guys. I let it run and let's go get a coffee.
If only the coffee shops were open.
Yeah.
That's the most fun part.
Coffee.
What's that? Yeah. So here's where I'm going to the output. So there's a lot of output here. So you can see here, I've got the the objective function. Here's kind of like, this is the actual equation. So this is the estimates. This is looking at, again, the this is the key value, looking at whether it's statistically significant at a 99%.
Am I the only one whose screen is grayed out all of a sudden?
Mine went great. Mine went great too.
You can't see it?
Mine is great. I can't see it.
You can or cannot?
It's half gray. You cannot.
Okay. No. I'm not hearing you. Can you hear me? Number one?
We can hear you. We can hear you, Richard, but we can't see the screen.
You can't.
Can you hear us, Richard?
It's cut off. It's halfway cut off, and maybe try minimizing your window and opening it again. Maybe that might help. I'm not sure what exactly is going on.
You can't see anything, Shan?
Just
Totally
the top, very top part, the data sources, that's it. Like the rest is grayed out. I think everyone's seeing the same thing.
Okay.
There it is.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is the output. You should be able to see the output. That's what I was.
But is your output opening on a different window, Richard?
It's opening on a different window. It pops up as a different window.
Yeah, I know.
But is it going to pop up as a different window on the shared screen sharing?
That's the thing. Yeah, I got to figure that out.
It's gray now. Whatever you did, it went gray.
Yeah.
It's got a pop-up window.
Okay. So I have it there. So I'm gonna do the stop share. Let me try this, okay?
And go to the other screen, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stop share. Share. Okay.
Did you see who came to the meeting? Siquin is here. Are you still on the top of the leaderboard, Siquin?
Can you see it now, guys?
No. Sikwin going to say something to the team?
Oh, hi, girls.
Hey,
How are you doing?
good. Apparently, you've got like the biggest score ever so far, you and your team.
Yeah, our team tried a lot of times. We tried a lot of the models. Actually, we don't have much experience on modeling, but we watched some tutorials from SaaS software
Yes.
official channel on YouTube, and there are some case studies. So we learned from that, and we changed the parameter based on that. And
Cool.
You see it now?
Yes, Richard. I just want to, so you
Okay.
changed some parameters. Are you going to give any tips on anything, Sequin?
tips.
Are you going to
Hi.
share any secrets?
Yeah, actually, Paige, one of our group members, did a lot of work on this.
And I think Paige is here too, right?
I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
I'm
Paige
here.
is here
Yeah,
too, yeah.
Hi, Karen.
Yeah. You share any secrets, Paige?
Yeah.
I think the most tips I can give is I think that it is important for us to do the input and the transform variables for the regressions. I think it helps.
Cleaning the data, right?
Yeah,
80% of the
That's
job.
it. Yeah, that's the trick of the tail. It's all about the input data and what you do with it. It's less about the different optimization or modeling techniques and more about what's being fed into them.
Good for you guys, because it's not about the thing about analytics is that it's everybody's going to be needing it, and you can start in your career in analytics with no experiences using some tools that have a lot of point and click type of options. And so good for you guys. We'll see. Yeah.
SessMiner is like a very, very useful tool.
Easy to use, huh?
Yeah, easy to use.
Yeah. Because there's a couple of other people on the call, like Jonathan. I don't know how to say the name. And he's a newbie, and so he's very uncomfortable about his skill levels, but giving it a try. So that's very good. So thanks for sharing that. Back to you, Richard. I was just using some time up.
Yeah. Can you guys all see this now?
Yes.
So you can see I have this is the actual equation here, like right here is, this is we have, these are all the variables, and then this is the parameter estimate. So these would be the weights for each variable. And then this column that we're always looking at is the actual chi-square, or the probability. So I'm looking at values like for each variable, are they above 95%? This one I kept in there because it was LTV. It's less than 95, it's at 92%, so 0.08. So this is our final equation. This would have been scored against a validation sample. And what I'm going to show you here is this. This is what you get from SAS Enterprise Miner in terms of a gains chart. So what you can do is you can take that decile or gains chart, and what I did is I imported it into I think into Notepad, and then I created a text file, which I then imported directly into Excel. And so what I'm going to show you now is basically once you import this into Excel, you can start to act for each one of these rows. You can actually start to calculate, okay, in this case, this is a response model, but in this case, you would actually have the observed. You would have the observed donation amount. You can actually calculate the ROI directly in Excel for each one of these half deciles. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you two ways. One is just using the raw SAS programming to generate the decile chart, but here in EM is a way to calculate, to generate the gain chart. Now, if somebody were to ask me, without even doing an ROI, where would a cutoff be? I would be able to tell them. And you're probably saying, how? How would I be able to? Basically, a rule of thumb, and it usually corresponds with the return on investment. Because
How?
I'm going to tell you,
How?
in this case, this model was built, the actual amount, because it was a card type product. So the actual revenue amount per card was the same. So the only what we were trying to predict is response. So a cutoff point here is taking a look at here. Each one of these points represents 5%, right? This column represents the percent of responders that's been captured in that half decile. So this is telling me my top 5%, I'm capturing 12% of all the responders in the validation sample. Now you could, if your objective function is donations, is observed donations, you want the same thing. I want to be able to capture, what are the percentage of all donation amounts that I'm capturing in that top 5%. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing that I'm capturing 12% of all donation amounts in the top 5. Here I go to the second decile. I'm capturing 9% of all the responders in the second decile. So the model is actually working quite well in the sense that I'm capturing more responders. I'm capturing 9% of the responders, yet I'm only going after 5% more names. So really what I'm looking at a cutoff is where I'm getting 5 and 5. So here might be a good cutoff point based off without even doing any ROI. This would be a good cutoff point because when I start to go in around, I mean, it's kind of very flat, but you could probably say in around here because it doesn't start to differentiate, but probably in around here between 35 and 55 would be a good cutoff. And then it starts to drop. So that's sort of rule of thumb just based on the percent responders. But again, what you could do is you could take this chart, bring it into Excel, and then start to calculate the the ROI, like take the costs. So you would have here when when you developed your model, instead of percent response, you'd have percent donation amounts. So and you'd have the cumulative, you'd have the percent donation amounts. So you could calculate what is the actual or observed donation amount in each half decile. You know the total cost, right? Because you have the cost per promotion. So you have metrics that you could calculate to determine the ROI for each half decile, because you're going to have the observed donation amount and you're going to have the observed costs. Okay, once you bring this into Excel. Any questions?
Richard, did you see Michael's question? Is there a way to change the size of the deciles since, I guess, using less than the full million records?
You mean to change the size of the deciles?
Yeah,
Michael?
sorry, just because each will be, if we're using deciles, each will be 100,000, and just to make each bin have less records.
Oh, do 20 deciles, 20 siles.
Yeah.
What's 20 deciles called?
Yeah, this is using 20. This is using 20.
Or
So,
even more than that, because that'll be what, 50,000 records per bin.
okay, so you're talking like centiles or something like that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go back here. I'd have to play around. I mean, I can do it programmatically. So if I were to go back in SAS, I mean, I can do anything programmatically. I'm just trying to figure it out in EM. I think, let me just go in here. They have a whole bunch of functions in here where I'm trying to figure out if I could go in and change it from, right now it's set at 20, right? So Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go in and and play around. I mean, what you could do is here. If somebody knows how to program, I can show you if you want. Let me just go in and okay. So I'll go in. Where's my SAS thing? Okay, can everybody see my SAS? Everybody see my SAS? Everybody see the screen here?
I
Yes,
can
no?
see it. I
Yeah.
can see it.
Michael, can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah. So typically what I would have done, and I know this, I don't know how many of you know SAS code. I'd have to, it would be a question for EM, like I'd have to look in or go to the help desk because I'm not needed any options when I look at it. But here programmatically, typically what I do is here you see I have 10 here. So here, what I would do here is I just change this to 100. And voila. See, so now I have, you can see here, like I did it programmatically, right? So I have the ROI, now I have 100 deciles. So that's, you can do it, if somebody knows SAS, you can do it programmatically where you're just changing the bin size from, but within EM, I'm just not, I'm not seeing the option. I don't recall seeing an option, but again, I use EM when I'm using decision trees. I don't necessarily use EM when I'm in degree of modeling. We go right back to the raw code, but we've used EM in my old life. We've used EM extensively for decision trees to help us create variables and stuff like that. But let me just go back again because there may be something I'm missing here. Model selection options. View options, output options.
In the model comparison node, maybe there is a decile.
Well, the model comparison is, it might be, but I'm just thinking the model comparison is you're usually comparing a whole bunch of models together.
Yeah.
So it would
I
be,
think I've seen something.
yeah, it would be it should be in the modeling technique. And it should be on this left-hand side because you can go in, like I can go in, this is where I go in and change the variables here because I go in here and here, you'll see here, this is where I actually input.
Yeah, I'm actually not seeing your screen for some reason.
Oh, no, because I'm still on the, maybe here. Yeah. No, what I've done is I'm still on the other, yeah, you're not seeing it because I haven't stopped and reopened again. I'm still trying to figure it out. But
what about the score node?
Well, the score node, does the same thing as you're scoring, and you're taking the model and you're just scoring another data set. It doesn't necessarily validate because I played with that, but again, I'd have to do more exploration. So it doesn't necessarily validate. It should, but I haven't been able. When I took a look at using that node, yeah. It didn't validate.
Okay.
Didn't validate the way you. All it does is score.
So sorry, which node are you on right now?
What's that? Sorry.
Sorry, what node were you on?
Well, I'm back at EM now, but was just trying to figure out.
Yeah, what node in EM?
What node was being the regression?
Okay.
Can I just do a process check? How many people are intending to use this process that Michael, that Richard is describing? Show of hands, please. Show of hands, please. So because of the time, Richard, I'm wondering if we should do an offline with you and Michael.
Okay. Yeah, that's that's fine. I just think, I mean, the purpose, I did get a little technical. I think the purpose is really to demonstrate, there's many ways to skin the cat, but it's to demonstrate the notion of the decile or gains charts, right?
Yeah.
And whether you do it in EM, like I've shown you can do it in EM. Unfortunately, it produces 20. But I think that's going to be pretty granular enough to make a cutoff point, because again, these models are, if I understand it, it should be based off the observed, not the predicted. So it should be based off the observed donation that's coming from each decile, and then what the cost was. So that's what should be being calculated. So anyways, yeah, that's basically all I have to say is I think the decile or gains charts are the key, is a key chart that I think the business people are going to want to see.
Yeah. And so I just want to use the last few minutes of the time again to ask if there's any questions, and if so, please post them in the chat box. And also to remind people about the tips that have been given. It was mentioned at the launch meeting as well as today that the importance of looking at your data, and Paige has identified a video that helps to walk through tips for cleaning the data. Paige, did you want to talk to that?
That's basically the two functions. One is the impute one, and the impute function can help you predict some missing values for the for some variables, because in our models, in our raw data, there are many missing values.
Yes.
I think there are 60,000 missing values for frequency. So I think it could impact a lot for our models, especially the regressions. So we need to clean the data, and some of the variables like salaries, they are skewed, quite skewed. So if we want to have a better normal distributions of these variables, we should transform that variables. So in the video, they provide some examples and case studies of how to impute and transform the data, and how it could impact the result of the models. So I think that could be helpful.
Excellent, right? And I think that every call that I've been on with SAS that talks about the competition, they talk about data transformation, cleaning. Tom, you mentioned the SEMA process. Did you want to talk about that?
Oh, that's the SEMA process.
SEMA.
So that's it's SAS's actual theoretical approach to doing all of this. So it actually just stands for what? Sample, explore, modify, model, and then the A is assess. So it's just their standard approach to it.
Okay. And there's training on that, right? And then also talked about exploring or getting an understanding of what variables work better than others, and perhaps even deriving some variables. Has anyone done that? Like last night, Danush talked about how he created a how did he transformed the RFM model into into different variables, and he used like the connection with a derived variable to determine the connection or the strength of connection with the organization. So that's possibilities if anyone hasn't been doing that, and testing different variables. So taking some out that you think might be a bit duplicative or not necessarily helpful. Any other tips from Andy? Do you have any other tips from your conversations with your teams?
Not really, but I'm a bit confused because I think in one of the presentations, Lindsay did mention that the data was already cleaned, and for that reason, they don't have to do data cleaning. So from what Paige is saying that they have to clean the data, I'm not sure if other teams might be missing something. Yeah.
All right, so we'll make sure to publish that on the LinkedIn group. But every time you're doing modeling and analytics, I think what she meant was the data is formatted in the correct way to be able to use it.
Okay.
But each record may have missing variables.
Missing values.
So if a record has a missing variable, which is what I think Paige was describing now, you have to figure out how to fill that variable in so that the model will work.
Okay.
Yeah, there were missing values in some of the variables.
Yeah.
So they have to be, that in as a data scientist or analytics practitioner, that goes with the territory, is being able to deal with missing values and adjusting for them. And there's a number of different techniques. You create I think Sean mentioned the other day, which is, one technique is you create a separate category for missing values along with the other, and then bin it with the other groups. The other thing is you impute an average if the missing values aren't a lot. You could create a binary variable if the missing values are a lot. Say, okay, just the fact that the variables reported, yes, no. We've done a lot of that. So there's different ways to treat missing values, but you do not, and I repeat, you do not want to exclude records that have missing values. And I think there's some confusion. A lot of students say, oh, I'm just going to, if it has a missing value, I'll exclude it. No, because it may have very rich information on the other variables.
And as we see from the team that had the top scores on the leaderboard, right? Cleaning the data is probably going to have a big impact.
Yep, absolutely.
Sean, did you have any last tips to share?
That's pretty in alignment. I mean, one of the things I did suggest to one of the teams, and no harm. I mean, if you have time on the server itself as well as tries. Sometimes if you just look at the results of the decision tree model as well. So you're focusing on using regression as a methodology, but sometimes if you look at what the decision tree results are, directionally it could help you as well. Perhaps you are missing an additional variable, or perhaps the way the decision tree bins the values, you might find something that is significant, and then you can convert that into an indicator, 1 and 0, to leverage in your regression model. So that's one of the other tips I would put out there.
Okay, so try different models. Make sure you have clean data. Check for missing data variables or significant data variables.
Yeah, and I think Richard also did point out another piece to look at, which was the correlation as well. So those are some helpful tips.
Yeah.
I don't think Alan's on the call today. Tom, did you have anything else to add?
Not specifically, just good luck to everybody.
Yeah, right. Are you guys having fun? Is it fun? Anybody?
How does everybody answer that?
Sorry, one last thing as well, which I also mentioned, was it's more of an art and a science as well. So it's also understanding the significance of those variables. Can you relate to them? Can you explain them as well in layman terms?
So just to close off the meeting, because it is right. It's art and science. To close off the meeting, if Alan's just joining as we're saying goodbye. If you can share your feelings using the emojis let us know how you're doing as you sign off for today. And if you have any questions, you've got a few more hours to reach out to your faculty advisors. And the deadline is 5 o'clock, and that's it. But you can still play the game afterwards to continue to work on your presentations for Friday and your continued learning if you want to go through some of the additional rounds of the competition with your remaining time. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot, mentors. You're fabulous.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, everyone. Have
Thanks,
fun.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.
See you tomorrow.
I love the faces.
I couldn't find out how to do those emojis.
Oh, you just on the bottom, Alan, at the bottom, there's an emoji, there's the text box at the bottom of the chat.
Yeah, there's a send and I have text, but I don't
It's got text, and then it's got just beside this, oh, maybe extend your messaging box with the three dots.
Yeah, I looked in there. Oh, maybe it's in here. Yeah, there's a whole list of things.
Yeah. I like them.
I was looking, but I just wasn't fast enough.
So
okay,
cute.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alan.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I don't know how to turn the recording off. Will it turn off if I leave?